I am going to recite the 10 standards of international human rights-based policy. Standard number 1, equal protection. It says that everyone is entitled to the equal protection of the law, without discrimination on any grounds, especially against violence and other threats. It only says that as a victim, as an accuser, as a police officer, we all have the equal protections under the law. For example, when we were going to arrest a person, when we were going to arrest a person as a police officer, we need to have we need the accused, or we need the person that we were going to arrest to be informed of their rights. This is such as called the Miranda rights or the Miranda warning. It includes, it encompasses the statement that they have the right to remain silent, or they have the right to counsel. If they cannot afford one, the government will provide one, or that anything that they can say will be used against them in the court of law. It is a protection for the accused itself, and also it is a protection from the officer itself. Or the next one is, for example, is in the when as a police officer they are going to conduct a custodial investigation. Before they can conduct a custodial investigation, they must, or the accused must have a counsel by their sides, because there is an anomalies in the law enforcement, or in the police side rather, that they are extracting confession or information to the accused in a legal way by the use of violence, threat, intimidation, coercion, or any other means such as. So it must have a legal counsel. But it must be take note that when they are going to enforce the Miranda rights or the Miranda warning, it must be in a language or in a dialect that the accused itself can understand. Why he commit, what is the crime they committed, or what is the why, like that. Okay, on the standard number 2, it is the respectful treatment. It says that treat all citizens and the victims of crimes with compassion and respect. For example, there is a victim in a rape case, a woman. It must be accompanied, or it must be supervised by the policewoman itself, in order for implement the respect in treating them. Because there is such limitations that the policemen is limited. There is a limitation. So, for example, like that, in a sensitive case such as the rape cases, it must be a woman. Okay. Okay. And it must be also noted that in these standards, it needs to uphold the integrity and the dignity of everyone in a humane manner. Okay. We need to treat them as if they were ordinary individual, but not the convicted one, because we cannot say that the certain person is guilty without a final judgment. So we need to respect them and treat them as if they are not, because in adversarial, they are guilty until proven, and they are innocent until proven guilty. Okay, on the third standard, or the standard 3, it is the use of force. It says that do not use force except strictly necessary, with a minimum extent required under such circumstances. As a police officer, it is our general rule, or it is a general rule for the police officer to not use force in implementing or executing the law. However, if there is a need to use unnecessary force, then the police officer can do so. But it must be noted that in enforcing the force, it must be only unnecessary ones. And beyond the necessary, it is illegal. All right. On the standard number 4, it is a policing non-violent assemblies. It says that avoid using force to policing unlawful but non-violent assemblies. For example, in the rallies, if they were going to rally or if they were going to protest illegally, as much as possible, if the police officer can handle it or can suppress it in a legal manner or in a very calm manner, then that's very much appreciated. So the best thing that they can do if they cannot suppress them is put the barricade, put the shield on, so they can protect someone innocent as well as they can protect themselves. But they don't need to suppress their freedom of speech. That is what the ground I am. They don't need to cut their freedoms of speech. If it is literally illegal, then as much as possible they can talk to them if it is possible. But however, it is an exemption to use the force if the protesters in the rally is using unimaginable force. For example, they are throwing things to our police officers, or they are using a guns to our police officer that may endanger them. Of course, they can use other force. But as much as possible to disperse the public, they can use the smoke or the water cannons itself. Okay, on the standard number 5, the lethal force, use of lethal force. Lethal force should not be used unless unavoidable in order to protect your life or the life of others. That's like what I said when the person that you were going to arrest shots you or points a gun at you. As a police officer, what would you do? Are you going to hold your batons and shield the bullet? It is impossible. So the thing that you need to do is also use force for them to cease, right? That is. But it is also a general rule that using force or using little force is prohibited. It is always a last resort for the police officer to do so. On the standard number 7, it is the arresting person on legal grounds. Only arrest person if you have the right to do so. An arrest, if you have the legal grounds to do so. An arrest must be accompanied with lawful arrest procedure. When you were going to arrest someone or you have the legal grounds to do an arrest, it must be in a lawful way. Such as like what I said in the standard number 1, they must be informed of their rights. They must be informed of their counsel. Okay? They must be informed of every rights they should have. As well as in arresting someone, it must be in a legal procedure. The law enforcer must look out for the article number 124 and 125 of the revised penal code. Okay. And take note that when we were going to arrest, it is even though we don't have a warrant of arrest, we can always do so. Even if we don't have warrant of arrest or we forgot our warrant of arrest, we can still proceed to the arrest, because we have the so-called warrantless arrests, such as in flagrante delicto, plain view, or for example those who escape in jails or who escapes in prisons, like that. All right, on the standard number 8, standard number 7, the detainee's rights. On the standard number 7, the detainee's rights, it says that ensure that all ensure that ensure that all detainees immediately after their arrest her must have their access on their family and lawyers. Not just their family and lawyers. I believe they can also have their access on their ministers, or the doctors, or the medical doctors, or the pastors, or the priests that is chosen by their families. All right, and like that. So for example, the council, when they were going to have a custodial investigation, it must be accompanied with their counsel, because just like what I said, they can the information can be extracted in a legal way. So it is good if it is a must to have a presence of their counsels. All right, on the standard number 8, it is the humane treatment of detainees. All detainees must be treated humanely, because just like what I said, they are only detainees. They are not convicted. So they are not proven that they are guilty of the crimes itself. We should extract the information in a good manner and in a legal way. We should not let our violence, threats, intimidation, coercion, or any other similar acts like that to win. Because that is what justice is. It's about fairness. It's about equality. It's about the protection of all living things and all humans that is living. And standard number 9, refusal to obey unjust orders. Do not do not do not cover up or orders that is orders of for extra legal killings, or disappearance, or enforced disappearance, and refuse to obey any order to do so. Because when you are going to enforce the law, and you know that your superior is doing something illegal, and you know in yourself that it is not in your principle to do so, then you can refuse it. You don't need to obey everything that they are saying, even if it is against the law, because no one is above the law, and we can never bend the law. So you have the free will to refuse and don't obey if you know that it is below the belt, because managing their power and managing yours is a different kind of matter. All right, on standard number 10, it is the reporting violations. Report or violations of these standards to your senior officer and to the nearest prosecutor's office. It only says that everyone, or if you know that there is a law enforcer that violates this, it is punishable. It must be always in accordance with the law. Just like what I said earlier, that no one is above the law, and that if you surpass it, or if you trespass the law, you click to the illegal things, then you must endure the punishment behind it. Even if it is your superior, it is your junior, your lower, your higher, or any other, even the president itself cannot escape the law. All right, thank you, mom.